made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. Before we dive into this powerful episode, please remember to subscribe to our channel and give us a 5-star rating on iTunes and continue hustling. This episode is sponsored by Imaging Services, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Moguls, Chiropractic Rocks, True Weight Solutions, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, doTERRA, Sherman College of Chiropractic, SCED, New Patients in a Box, the Influencer Authority Podcast Training, and Prime Spine Consulting. Let's hustle.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 309 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. I am your co-host, Luke Millette, and here's your host, Jim Chester.
So today we had the opportunity of interviewing Dr. Joshua Sharpe, and if you want to hear the path to chiropractic, stay tuned. Welcome back to another episode of the Chiro Hustle podcast. Today we have episode 309, and we have Joshua Sharpe here, youngster in the chiropractic game, but not as young as you might think he is. And he's coming in from Las Vegas, Nevada. And in this corner, up to my right, we have Luke Millette, co-host, coming in from Ann Arbor, Michigan. And I am Jim Chester, your host, coming in from Grand Junction, Colorado. And just to set some ground rules for people, our show exists to keep free speech alive in the chiropractic profession. We do protect the sacred trust. If you don't know what that is, go Google it. And we support subluxation-based chiropractors. And we believe that the history of chiropractic is important with the languaging. So we help perpetuate that long term. So without any further, Dr. Joshua, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks, Luke. Great to be on here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, in typical fashion, I don't think there's anything typical about what we do because we talk about chiropractic. But the first question I always like to open up with is your story, because that gives a chance for you to build a connection with our audience. And your friends are going to listen to this. Your family members are going to listen to this. Your practice members will listen to this, and the profession at large is going to listen to this. So what is your story, and how did you get into this beautiful profession?
Yeah, great question. The couple key steps along the way, it was never my intention to be in the health and wellness field. I pole vaulted when I was 17, and I jammed my elbow, fell into the box and really hurt my hip. And my mom had been introduced to chiropractic after an industrial accident, and she had surgery, and they sent her to a chiropractor for rehab. So she said, "Hey, why don't you go see Dr. Wells? He's our chiropractor." And he adjusted me top to bottom, kind of that full spine osseous adjustment, pop and crack, flying 7, I think is what the old school kind of way of doing it. And I never slept better for in my life. And it was amazing. And it never crossed my mind then to do that. I was going into undergrad and doing ROTC. And as I joined the military, I was traveling around. I was always trying to find somebody to recreate that experience for me. And with varying degrees of health. Came back from Afghanistan in 2007 with some PTSD, tried to, drink it away in the bottle. That didn't work so well. Did the whole, lost my job, lost my home kind of thing for a bit. And really just went on a path to self-discovery and got into the Tony Robbins world. Ended up meeting Donnie Epstein, who's the founder of Network Spinal. And he worked on me. I was just blown away by this work. And it really felt like the missing component for me, where, what I'd searched for before was always trying to look for somebody else to put me back together. And this was something where getting under care with this work really started allowing me to put myself back together. And I had some massive changes just as a patient over the first 2 years under care. And then the final straw for me was like, hey, this is the direction you should go in your life. Is my brother was diagnosed with leukemia in 2014. And I really got to see the inside of the medical world and just completely felt called to do something about health. And he was coming out of the hospital, looked like he was going to be okay. He ended up passing within a year. But we made the decision at that time I went back to school. My wife and I for me to go back to school and put me on this path. So kind of a roundabout way to do it, but healing and this work has kind of always been part of my life. It's always been a focus. And now I get to do it. And it's super exciting. It's super rewarding and it's amazing to see people change and having that, experience for me and seeing in others.
I'm sorry to hear about your loss.
Oh, thank you.
But so now that you're in the world of chiropractic, what are some things that you say would make you unique or different from, say, the chiropractor down the street?
Yeah, for one thing, like I was saying, I've got kind of a wild ride story on this path. And when I met Donnie Epstein, I was kind of coming out of the corporate world after I was in the military, and I kind of had the call to be a chiropractor. Then I was like, man, this is amazing work. And I looked at it and I said, you know what? I don't. It's like 3 years of school. It's a lot of time. It's a lot of money. I don't want to do that. But I'm like, wow, their marketing is terrible. And that was kind of my background. I was like, well, let me help them with their marketing. And I found the one guy. I lived in Baltimore at the time. I found the one guy in the DC Baltimore area that did network spinal, and I bartered services with him. He was my first client, and I'd help him do videos. I'd help him with his website. And he gave me 12 Stages of Healing, which is Donnie Epstein's book, and another kind of consciousness breathing exercise workbook. I read them both cover to cover, and I was just blown away by this work. So I'd set up a business around, doing marketing consulting and helping docs, at that time, it was anybody and everybody. So I got to see like 17 different industries. I had a car lot as a client, a massage therapist, all these different venues, but I would get to pull these pieces and see what worked for other professions. And as I, made the decision to become a chiropractor, I was like, let me focus this marketing knowledge just down for docs. And while I was going through school, I was coaching and consulting with docs on the side. It was kind of how, my family, how we paid for the bills and how we could, afford to go through school. So I've had this unique look into a lot of different offices and a lot of different ways to see how to do this work, as well as all the different business models that are possible. And I think at chiropractic, we have this one lens of this is the way to do it. Go do spinal screenings. That's what everybody's taught. And that's just one way. There's lots of different ways to, just like we were talking about before we got on the call, like you guys are doing a really interesting way. I love your concept of how you're bringing people in the door and how you can serve them. I mean, that's there's lots of different ways that you can serve your community and really add value back.
Yeah. I think you being such a, if you will, new kid on the block when it comes to being a chiropractor, what have been some of the ways that you've implemented to grow your own practice? Because, that's one of the things in the first 2 years, you really got to get after it. And what have been some of the avenues that you've gone to get new patients?
Yeah. Interestingly enough, I don't think we have done a spinal screening, at least not outside of our office. We did one. We've done a couple now where we've run ads. We've brought people into the office. We've networked with referrals. I'm kind of old school in some ways. Like I've run ads, and that's great. They, ads work. It's wonderful. I'm an old school business guy when it comes to like the best thing you could do is referrals. How can you leverage referrals? When we made the decision to come here to Vegas, it was kind of our number two. We're going to practice. I was in talks to buy two different practices in LA. And then 2019, California passed legislation to, you had to vaccinate your kids or not go to school. And none of our kids are vaccinated. So we had to make the decision. My wife basically said, hey, I don't want to homeschool our kids. So what do we do? Well, Vegas was kind of our number two spot. So when we moved here, we knew nobody here. So, grassroots guerrilla marketing style, bootstrap, no budget, what we can do. I joined a lot of local Facebook groups, and I just started adding value in those groups. I would create posts, add value, talk about health, look for people who are having health challenges, reach out to them, connect to them, and start to bring them in the office. And just simply from that, we started to build a business there. I'm the one guy that does network spinal in Vegas. So I just started networking with all the other network docs around the world. And I would say a good, at least the first wave of my practice was, 75% just family members, friends of other docs, other, people out there. So you have those peer relationships, or at least I had peer relationships. And that's been some of my best referral sources. It's just really, you never know who has a relative or if you're in a major metropolitan area, like who knows who in where you live. I'm always amazed. It's like, oh, I've got, my aunt's in Vegas. Like, great. What's her name? Can we get in touch with her? Let's let's bring her in and see how she's doing.
So what are some ways that you like to stay healthy? Like, how are you keeping out, a watchful eye on your own health as well as your family's health?
Yeah. And I will say that that's been the challenge for me. I'd been an entrepreneur before. I'd been a business owner. I really understand marketing. And I was like, oh, this business thing is going to be easy. And I ran into this game, and, as I grew my practice, would run into crazy health challenges. I'd never been a body worker or a massage therapist. That wasn't my background. So that aspect was super new to me. And I've really had to take a lot of time in these last 2 years of dialing in my health, like watching everything that I eat. We talked about earlier, just meditation, like really making sure I'm getting meditation and journaling, getting physical fitness and exercising. I see Jim, you're posting 75 hard. I did 75 hard for a bit. I was like, okay, I got the concept. And doing 2 workouts a day, that helps keep me, dialed in and going. So it really is a full picture of, I get myself checked. Like I get care for myself, through chiropractic. So all those things kind of play into the health and wellness role.
Well, I think it's really fascinating to hear somebody talk about the things that they're doing for themselves that's actually producing care to others. And I've always told myself, I don't ever want to go see a practitioner that doesn't take care of themselves, or I don't want to be under care of somebody that their mind is on money issues, or somebody that just got into they're disrupted in their behavior because of something frustrated them or triggered them or made them upset, whether it's, relational or just something in their zone that they catch. Like it's hard. It's hard when the practitioner doesn't take care of themselves to give solid care to someone else. So it's the old saying, you can't pour from an empty cup.
Yeah. We used to have Bruce Lipton come into Life West once a year, and he would basically teach like a 4-week series around the biology of belief. And he would go through all the science, from the very cellular level up to the macroorganism. And, and at the end, he tied it all back to chiropractic, but he tied it also with like the energy state that we show up in. And he was so bold in that he would say that people aren't coming to you for the adjustment. They're coming for you for the vibe. He's like, the adjustment is the placebo that makes people think they're getting health. But really what they're coming to you is they're coming for you. They're coming for how you've cultivated yourself and the energy, that vibe that you put off. And he said that, I was blown away. I was like, wow, that is really freaking deep. And so I think about that all the time of like, okay, how am I showing up? What's the state I'm in? How am I, being present? How am I living my life? Is there an area of my life I need to clean up? Because that's going to show up on the table. And all of that plays into a factor. At least in my belief system, it does.
Yeah. We all have blind spots. And, I think that's the great thing about this profession also is when the body is, as we call it, in alignment, there's, the subluxations are, healing. The body's healing. And when the body's holding, it's healing. And the body that has a better mindset around it also creates a field. And when the person has a healing field around them, it's just you show up differently. People see you differently. Your energy is differently. So it's cool how, you told your story about having some concerns with your own health and mental health specifically, and how you've come into the mindset of a Tony Robbins or the mindset of a Donnie Epstein and learned how to become a healer now, which is, I think, really cool. But you had to heal you first, and healing the healer is a big job.
Huge, massive.
And a lot of that was through education.
It was through education experience. I mean, Tony Robbins was like, I can see it in my mind, that the demarcation of kind of life before Tony Robbins and life after Tony Robbins. And I actually met Donnie Epstein at a Tony Robbins event. I met him here in Vegas at the Bellagio when Tony was doing one of his events. He was working on the security guard after the event. And I was just like, what the heck is this? Mm-hmm. So it's wild.
You've made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. This episode is sponsored by Imaging Services, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Moguls, Chiropractic Rocks, True Weight Solutions, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, doTERRA, Sherman College of Chiropractic, SCED, New Patients in a Box, the Influencer Authority Podcast Training, and Prime Spine Consulting. Let's hustle. Well, I'm really enthusiastic about your shift that you've had, but you also talked about marketing, and you got into marketing before you got into chiropractic. And while you were going through school, you were doing some marketing, and you do it for yourself. But hitting home, like you said something about referrals, and you haven't done any spinal screenings, but what are you doing to plug into your local community, and how are you growing yourself like on a local, like, a neighborhood or like a community style basis?
Yep. So a couple things. So we have a couple pronged plan of that. So we do community dinners, appreciation night dinners. So we'll invite our practice members. They can bring guests, and I'll do a little talk at that. We give dinner. So that's kind of one vehicle that we've used. We've organized a provider night. So we organized other healthcare practitioners. So, I mean, I'm a big pie guy. Like, I don't think there's more than enough. There's 2.6 million people here in Vegas. Like, there's more than enough pie for all of us. Like, I've got a great relationship with, he's a kind of a full spine doc down the street. He's given me one of his tables. Like, he sent me people. So we did this provider night where we invited other chiropractors, acupuncturists, massage therapists, colon hydrotherapist, a reflexologist. So we just network with other practitioners, and that's been a vehicle for us. What else have we done? Just asking practice members, having them share their story on social media. We've had people do Facebooks and videos for us that we put on their website, and so really just leveraging these channels of, building relationships in the community. I do a lot of coffees with people. Like, if I think somebody's a influencer, they're in my target market, and this was how I started. Of just, hey, I'm new to the city. Who wants to go to coffee? Like, okay, let's go to coffee. And just through a conversation, of course, they're going to ask me what I'm doing. I'm going to be interested in them. Hey, what's going on in your life? They're going to share with me. And eventually it gets to the point of like, hey, what's going on with you? I share with them about what I do, about chiropractic. And they're like, wow, that sounds like me. I'm having this going on. And it's like, cool, let's set up a time to come in and go through an appointment. And it honestly is really as simple as that. Like, I look at it as like, the more people I can talk to, the more that I can share the message out there. And it's, when people hear it, it's so different. I know it seems that for chiropractors and people in this, it's like, duh, this just makes sense. But you look at like what the mainstream option is. It's masks and hand sanitizer and social distancing and, fear of, the dreaded C-19. And the message that we have is such a stark difference to what is being, marketed on the mainstream. So I think it resonates with people.
And how do you see chiropractic changing or evolving, or where do you see it in the next 20 years? Where will it be? Yeah,
the good and the bad of what's happened over the last 18, months is, I think more people are waking up. I really do. I felt a lot of pressure, and even I felt like, oh man, this is just so depressing, and our lives are never gonna be the same. And man, all the conspiracy theories are coming true. We're going to lose our freedoms. We're going to lose the travel. And whether that's true or not, who knows? What I do think is true is that more people are seeing something different than ever before. I had that experience for me in 2014. My brother was in the hospital 24/7, and I got to just see this philosophy. Like, I had already been under network care for 2 years. And I'm just like, this is so different from the philosophy of health that I've studied and come to see that actually works in my body. I mean, all the way to the point of my brother was sleeping like this. His head was, his pillows were pinning his head down. He's like, man, this is like 2:00 in the morning. He's like, my head's really hurting. I'm really sore. And the nurse just walks over to the station, punches some. She's like, well, you're authorized for, it was like 2 different opiums. I can't remember which ones they were at the time. And she's like, you could do the ibuprofen, or you could do this other drug. And I was like, I'm like, I really think his neck's kind of like this. And this is pre-chiropractic, by the way. I'm like, it's really tight. It looks like that. Maybe if you just move a pillow, because he had like 3 pillows stacked up, it might be a little more comfortable. So she does that, and he goes, oh yeah, that's so much better. So it's just like, the go-to in that world is just like, hey, let's drug it, let's surgery it, versus like, why don't we actually explore and see if that's really the cause of what's happening, what's going on. So I see chiropractic becoming more and more valuable than ever, is simply because we have that message. And the more, you guys are influencers in the space, the more we can get out there and really spread that message and spread that word. That's where we can really add value to the marketplace. And that's really where we could serve in the highest level.
Well, there's a lot of cool things you said there that I kind of want to tie up with you is, offices across the board are really busy. I think as soon as like the initial shock hit chiropractic, it shocked the entire world. Like when the whole, whatever anybody wants to label it as, the whole scare of the world happened.
Right.
It shocked all business. And, but from overall, when I first started, hearing through the grapevine, there were some practices struggling and they might have gone off track, but the ones that have survived through all this are like thriving. So I think the timeliness of this for chiropractic was really, really important to be stable in the practices. And there's an old saying that chiropractic gives you years to your life and life to your years. And the other part of that is I grew up in Iowa, and people would sell the farm to save a loved one's life. Wow. And when it comes down to it, is we either can invest in our health now, or the other part of that is the saying is we'll pay for sickness later.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times people just aren't making health deposits like they would to their bank account.
Yep.
Or they're not making deposits into their sleep account, or they're not making deposits into the relationship with themselves or others. And I think that if we started to just really think about making investments in these things that matter the most, we won't have to wait till it's crisis care.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times when people think of chiropractic, they're like, oh gosh, I've had this thing going on for 25 years. Maybe you can like miracle thing this with like this 1 or 2 times, and we're gonna turn it all around. And it's like, well, you're looking for like the end all be all type of care, where we're a lifestyle care. Did you know that?
Right. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, I see plenty of those folks where it's like, you've built this up, this pattern in your body is built up over the last 60 years. And the good news is it's not going to take 60 years to undo it. The bad news is it's not going to take like 2 visits. Like it's going to take a little bit. But
really the gift is, Dr. Joshua, is that people actually get to be under care. Yeah. It's not a have to. It's I get to. And I think that that's the mindset of also being in some type of an environment that you're getting exchange as a work environment, is you get to be there, and you don't have to be there. If you feel like that's the contract with your soul, then you need to go find a new contract to sign.
That's exactly how I approach this. Like I see every individual that comes to my office, every conversation, every contact that I'm making with somebody, like, this is a soul contract. And I see that as like, what's the highest way that I can stand up for this person? And really, to me, it's not like, I have this conversation with my assistant, like, this isn't about sales. It's about showing somebody a different possibility and enrolling them into what they really want. Like, it's like, what's the vision for they want about their life? And how can we enroll them in that? And maybe we are part of their journey that's going to help them get there. Maybe we're not. But what a lot of people just have is like, they're just not committed in what they truly want and the dreams that they truly have. So like I have a 74-year-old lady. She was in here today. She just came back from Hawaii, and she first came in because the day she showed up, she's like, I was supposed to have knee surgery today. And she's actually, I was writing a book. She was the editor of my book. She's like, but I'm reading your book and it's telling about health. And I'm not going to go to knee surgery. So I'm here today to, when I was supposed to have knee surgery, and we're going to start care. Like, okay, great. So we got she's functioning much better. There's not having a problem. She goes to Hawaii. And while she's in Hawaii, she's like, I was doing great until I went snorkeling or scuba diving. And there was this big step and I couldn't get up the whole step. And she's like, okay, now I've got a new goal to work on. Next time I go back to Hawaii, I want to be able to make that big step. It's like, okay, great. So let's start creating a plan to get you ready to do that. So, and she's 74, and it's like, we can't ever stop dreaming. We can't ever stop looking at life and going, okay, what's that next level for me? Where is it that I want to go? And then putting people, resources, team in your life to, okay, how do I want to, who can help me get there? Who can help me, really level up to this next level?
Well, comfort is the place that strong people go to die.
Yeah.
So on the journey of your own life, who have been some of your heroes or people you've looked up to or people who have inspired you?
Yeah. I would say, I mentioned some of them on this call already. Like Tony Robbins has been a massive influence for me. I remember I had a gig at the Pentagon, and I remember sitting at the watch desk in the basement of the Pentagon, reading Awaken the Giant Within. And that was a massive influence for me then. Going to his events really helped me transform just my thinking. You mentioned just the toxic thoughts. I remember just how toxic my thinking used to be. And I remember coming out of one of the first or second day of one of his events, walking through the garage, and what used to be the self-talk in the head, and I would try to physically talk it out. It ended up being the reverse. I said something that was disempowering, and then my thoughts were like, no, that's bullshit. I'm like, whoa, wait a second. What's going on here? So it kind of exposed me to the power of that. And then same with Donnie Epstein. Donnie Epstein's been a massive influence and mentor to me. His stepson, Danny Knowles, I think you guys know Dr. Danny Knowles, has been a massive influence for me. So, really having mentors in this space. Dr. David Mailer, who's another founded Man on Fire, has been a huge mentor influence in my life. So they've helped me to cultivate a deeper sense of my own masculine and purpose and mission in my life. So all of them have really helped me, dial into a better version of me. Who do I truly want to be, and how do I want to show up on a daily basis in my life?
That's something that I don't know if you know Kute Blackson is.
No.
He teaches something that if you tell yourself such a bullshit negative lie, to the degree that your conscious knows it's a lie, it'll think in the opposite automatically. So that's a really cool trick to try on yourself.
I had a lot of it. I had a lot of, I've gone through the whole depression, anxiety, just PTSD, being triggered, being angry and blaming, playing that victim. I've walked all those roads. Would just burn through and destroy all the relationships in my life in my 20s. And, I really had to start to unpack that and unwind that and really look in the mirror. The hard test is looking at that guy in the mirror and being like, hey, this isn't the version of me who I want to be. And, what is it I really want to create? And how do I want to shift that?
Yeah, it's thoughts, trauma, toxins. And most people don't understand how linear each one of those things matters, and that they all live on certain frequencies.
Yep.
And that when we allow one of those things to live in us too much, it starts to, as Luke said, the narrative inside of our echo chamber of our noggin becomes the narrative of our future.
Yeah.
And if we aren't cautious of how we allow things to ruminate inside of us and develop inside of us and to be a part of our day-to-day struggle or day-to-day wins, we never know how to actually process it out of us. And that's one of the things I really admire about network care, is it does allow people to process a lot of these things that they can't articulate. Because if people could say what they wanted to say and they could put words to it, they would. Yeah. But a lot of times when you're doing that type of care, you're unlocking parts of people's bodies that they don't know how to communicate, even if they had the ability to. So you're decoding them in a way and allowing them to thrive again. Yeah. And I think that that's a really cool thing, but you actually have to go live that as a practitioner too, which I think is awesome.
Huge. And that's, and as I've gotten into this work, it's like, okay, how can I level up that? And getting to sit in the chair and do new patient, new intake consults. Here's my personal, subjective assessment is it's maybe 5-10% of the time when it's an actual physical ailment. A lot of people will come in and I got, ouch, my back hurts, right? That's kind of typical for people walking to a chiropractic office. And I would say the other 95% of the time, it's something emotional, mental, spiritual. That's really, the underpinning of this. And we think energy and information lives up here, but if you study guys like Joe Dispenza, like it lives everywhere. Like it's all around us. It's all over our body, and we have these experiences, and it's like they fragment all over. And this is a big view of my personal view of subluxation is it's that energy and information that's got trapped in the body, and it's distorted our spine. It's distorted our nervous system. And you liberate that with people, and they start to move, and it's like, wow, like you see the lights come on, like literally. I know that's the old adage, the old joke, but it really is. People come off the table, and I'll say like, hey, welcome back. Like, cause it's like they're coming back. They're coming back to life.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Dr. Joshua, I want to thank you for being our guest today and sharing all the stories that you did. What are some of your websites where people can find you or get a hold of you or see what you're doing?
Yeah, great. The best one is anahatachiropractic.com. Anahata is ANAHATA. Anahata is the heart chakra. So I think a big purpose and mission for me is like, okay, how can I bring more heart into the world, particularly in Vegas? Like Vegas is known as the Strip, and it's got its whole persona to it. But it's like, okay, how can we bring more?
Yeah, can you read that back to me again? Anahata, what?
Anahata, ANAHATA.
HATA.
Yep, chiropractic.com.
Chiropractic. It's a tongue twister.
Sorry. My wife picked it out, and I loved it. So,
any Instagram handles, email addresses, Facebook?
Yeah, pages? I think it's Anahata Chiropractic at Instagram and Facebook as well. We're on both of those.
Awesome.
Yeah, Dr. Joshua, it's been really fun to get to know you today. And thank you for being a part of our massive tapestry that we're building with the brand of Chiro Hustle. We always say you're just one story away, keep hustling. And it's a great tagline. But we're, as you said, we get a chance to turn the lights on. Yeah. But the real message to all this is keeping the lights turned on.
Yeah.
And I believe that that's a good way to send us all off today is let's keep turning the lights on and keeping them on. And I just want to thank you for being episode 309 of the Chiro Hustle podcast, and have a brilliant rest of your day out there in Las Vegas, Nevada.
Brilliant. Thanks, Jim. Thanks, Luke. Thank you for what you're doing for the profession and for the world to spread this message out. Appreciate that as well.
It's really funny. Jim used to say that Chiro Hustle keeps the lights on.
Yes.
In more ways than one.
Sure.
It covers the overhead that Luke and I both exist in. So
right.
It's been an honor to be able to do work that's meaningful to us.
Yeah.
And we did start something that mattered, and we get a chance to see it in year number 4 right now. And it's just been a fun journey.
Oh, beautiful.
And I feel honorable to be able to hold space and tell these stories, and to be able to meet all the amazing practitioners of chiropractic, and to be able to be somebody that can be a connector, and to give one solid message of what we do, because that's the beauty of what Luke and I produce. And yeah. I get I would say luck, but I would probably choose a better word as blessed to be able to go to work with Luke and to be able to do the work that we accomplish together, because as you know, like there's no I in team, and it's a team project, and we have great support now, and it's a lot of fun.
I love it. Love it.
All right, Dr. Joshua, thank you again for being our guest, and we want you to enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Sounds great. Thank you, guys.
Talk soon.
All right,
See
bye.
ya.
Thanks for listening to Chiro Hustle. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.